Welcome back. The government stands accused this morning of abandoning a key budget strategy, dumping plans to wipe out net debt by the end of the next decade. And the long-promised return to surplus trimmed by $2 billion as wage growth flatlines and consumers refuse to spend. Joining me now is Treasurer Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, good morning to you.
Nice to be with you.
Treasurer, in the mid-year budget review, the government revised its forecast surplus. That's got to hurt.
Well, actually, what these numbers show is that Australians can be confident about their economic future. We're putting more money in their pockets with the tax cuts, and we're seeing the budget come back to surplus for the first time in 12 years. We're seeing record investments in infrastructure as well as guaranteeing the essential services that people need and rely upon, including record funding for schools, for hospitals and for aged care. So what these numbers do show is that we do face challenging economic times with the drought here at home and also the trade tensions abroad. But what we are doing is bringing the budget back under control.
Treasurer, you're saying you're putting more money back in workers' pockets, but the evidence suggests that workers aren't spending it. What does that indicate to you?
Well, it's our job to put more money in their pockets. It's their choice as to whether they spend or they save. What we did see in the most recent numbers was that household disposable income had its biggest rise in a decade, and that's not insignificant. But ultimately, people will pay down their debts just like the government is, and that will free up more money into the future for them to spend in the economy as they reduce their interest burden.
Over the past 24 hours, you've certainly been putting on a brave face, taking, I guess, a glass is half full type of approach, saying that the outlook for the Australian economy remains positive. But this shift in policy, it certainly indicates that there's work to be done.
Well, there's always work that we continue to do to strengthen the Australian economy, but if you look at these numbers, it shows that the Australian economy will be growing faster than the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Japan and other comparable nations next year. We saw the unemployment rate come down from 5.7% when we came to government to 5.3% today, and more than 1.4 million new jobs have been created. And what we saw in yesterday's mid-year economic update is $4.2 billion worth of infrastructure projects either be brought forward into the forward estimates or they're new projects that are getting underway. So this is very significant.
Treasurer, if we step back from this macro surplus outlook for a moment, why should the average Australian worker care if there's a surplus, if their wages aren't going up? And what's your plan to get wages moving?
Well, the government pays down debt, just like families watching your show this morning pay down their mortgage over time. And our interest bill on our debt last year was $19 billion. Over the next few years, that will be reduced to $14.5 billion. That frees up money to be spent on schools, hospitals, infrastructure and other essential services. So the lower your debt levels, the lower your interest payments, and that means that the government is living within its means, and that's critically important.
Treasurer, just finally, where's the Prime Minister?
The Prime Minister is overseas with his family. He's having a well-deserved break, and obviously it's been a very busy year. He'll be back at work shortly, and then he'll be off to India leading a delegation to advance Australia's interests.
All right, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, nice to chat with you this morning. Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Coming up,